CTV News with Caroline Van Vlartigan.
Good evening. The hantavirus, once far away, has now become a very real and present issue for at least one Quebecer. The government issued a communiqué today confirming that one person in the province is isolating after being exposed to a passenger with a confirmed case of the virus, the same one that killed 3 people on a cruise ship. Sweeta Rassi has more.
Quebec's Health Minister Sonia Bélanger says this Quebecer who might have been exposed to the virus on a flight is not showing any symptoms. 2 other Canadians from Ontario and who were on the cruise ship are also isolating, and officials say they too don't show any symptoms. Bélanger adds the risk of transmission is therefore extremely low. What we know so far is the MV Hondius cruise ship left from Argentina in April, but by a couple weeks in, passengers began getting sick. 3 people have died, including a Dutch couple and a woman from Germany. More than 24 passengers from at least 12 different countries left the ship before the outbreak was recognized. The World Health Organization says as of May 4th, there have been 7 cases of the virus, including the 3 deaths, adding it is taking measures to mitigate the spread of it. Dr. Donald Vin, who says the Andes strain of the hantavirus comes from rodents and spreads through bodily secretion. But he says what makes this specific strain unique is that it can also pass from person to person through droplets and aerosols.
So it's prolonged social contact. That usually means something like face-to-face communication, so that implies something like respiratory droplets and aerosols. But of course, it can also involve inanimate objects where you have, for example, sneezing or coughing or saliva that goes onto, inanimate objects that are then not cleaned but picked up and used by somebody else, and it can lead to transmission that way.
Finn adds while there is no need for panic, the medical community is staying vigilant. Meantime, Ottawa says there are still 4 Canadians on the ship in question, which is now heading to Spain's Canary Islands. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says Canada will provide support for them once they arrive at the port, adding that public health protocols will be followed. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
A body was recovered today on the shores of Rivière des Prairies in Pierrefonds, Roxborough. And police were called this morning about a body washed up behind a house on Gouin Boulevard near Saint-Jean. It is believed it might be that of the 18-year-old student from a nearby cégep who fell through the ice in March. Police are not confirming it, saying a coroner will identify the victim and the cause of death. The city announced a housing project today for the homeless that approaches the issue in a new way. La Maison du Coin Crémazie will be built by a private firm and sold to Welcome Hall Mission, which will operate and manage the 42-bed facility. The plan is for the facility to offer stable, supervised housing where people will stay for an average of a year. Officials believe this type of housing will grow in comparison with emergency shelters, and the speed at which the building will be ready means this could be a model for future projects for the unhoused.
We can speed up the process. Roughly a year from now, this building should be ready. A little more than a year, probably. And they are funding it completely to build it. Once it's built, we'll buy it from them. But in the meantime, we'll be able to have the time and the space to get the financing in place that's necessary to take control of the building, take charge of the building, open it up. And that speeds up the whole process, because I can tell you about cases where there was a need in a community, everybody acknowledged it, and it took 5 or 6 years to assemble the financial stack.
And the project will be built by Domicile Fixe, a company with a mission to build places that have social impact. The Montreal Victoire are now just 1 game away from heading to the Walter Cup Finals. They beat the Minnesota Frost on the road 2-1 tonight. Fans flocked to the Champs Bar in Montreal, where there were some tense moments as the game wound down. Here's Kelly Gregg.
It was yet another 1-goal game as Montreal pulled off the comeback after going down early.
Got a little bit of a bounce, which gives it for Sid Moore, and right in front, they score!
The Frost opened the scoring on just the third shot of the game. It's not like Victoire goaltender and René Desbiens to give up a goal like that, but that is the one that makes it 1-0. After just 5 penalties in the last game, there are a bit more heated moments with both teams having some words and some shoving matches after the whistle in this one. To the second period now, where Maggie Flaherty ties it with a wraparound. That's her second career playoff goal. Then just 24 seconds later, it's Haley Skamura who assisted on the first goal, who gets one of her own. Montreal with 2 big penalty kills in the third period, including one taken as Desbiens gets crashed into the crease. Minnesota pulls the goalie in the dying minutes. But Montreal hangs on to win this one 2-1.
And it's over! And Montreal survives and has a 2-1 series lead!
There were some tense moments here at Champs Sports Bar as Montreal defended their lead into the dying minutes.
Let's go, Victoire!
Fans here at Champs Sports Bar sporting their jerseys. Now, Montreal has finished first or second every year in the regular season, but have yet to advance to the Walter Cup final. I asked fans why they thought this year would be different.
Yeah, they chose Minnesota. I'm thinking this year is the one. Minnesota three-peat. No way. No way. Curl doesn't deserve it. I don't think they deserve it. I think Montreal and Ottawa in the finals is going to be great.
Yes, it's our year. It's our year. I have confidence in them. I'm really hoping for the best. They look like a really strong team this year, but they do every year, so I don't know. They look good, though.
This is the year it happens. We have Laura, Stacy, Marie-Philippe Boulay, Abby Rock, all on the same line. First year it's happened, okay? We are taking it all the way. The Frost are not getting to the Walter Cup final. It's over for them. Their reign of terror is done. The Victoire is bringing it home to Montreal.
Clearly some passion here in the room. Montreal takes a 2-1 series lead over the 2-time Walter Cup champions. Game 4 is tomorrow at 8:30. Kelly Gregg, CTV News.
Gotta love that positive attitude. Well, meantime, Le Nadia, a popular women's sports bar, has closed, but owners say a temporary new home is in the works. The women's sports bar in Hochelaga closed unexpectedly last week, just 5 months after it opened. Its owners say the decision was out of their control. Le Nadia quickly became a busy gathering place for fans of teams like the Montréal Victoire and the Montreal Roses. The bar was often packed for games, but a lawyer representing the building's co-owners say an insurance issue led to the closure. And now the owners say they're focused on finding a new space for spring and summer.
So female athletes won't suffer from not being screened. That's what we hope, and we really want to be sure that everybody who was coming to the Nadia will still have that community feeling soon.
And the team says keeping Le Nadia in Hochelaga-Maisonneuve is a top priority. They're now looking for a new space, both for the short term and for the future. Passenger traffic is up at Trudeau Airport, and the airport's in the midst of a major expansion project. And that's also sparked some questions about what the project means for the environment. Here's Denise Roberts.
Montreal's airport authority says 2025 was a year of major projects and some disruptions. Passenger traffic was slightly down from the year before, due in part to the Air Canada labor strike and the Trump effect, which rerouted Canadians' travel plans from the U.S. But the biggest disruption has been the teardown of its multi-level parking garage, a major step in a $10 billion expansion project. ADM President and CEO Yves Beauchamp says the growing pains are necessary to meet demand.
Our mandate, based on the lease that we have with Transport Canada, we have the mandate to respond to the demand.
He says their projections show they will need space for 7 million more passengers by the year 2030. But not everyone is on board with the project. The environmental group Maires au Front held a protest before the meeting and raised questions afterwards. They say neither the ADM nor the provincial and federal governments are taking responsibility to test air quality.
Nobody here is talking about the population's health. They're talking about buildings, they're talking about movement, they're talking about the soundscape, which means noise. But They're not talking about public health issues.
There's no assessment of the increase of pollution, and that's what we ask for.
Beauchamp says they're following the law and have started discussions with the group and may be able to conserve some of the wetlands surrounding the airport.
We are in reflection with the board, actually. We are in discussion with Transport Canada, and it's a possibility that within a few months or maybe a year that we might come up with something that makes sense.
For now, he says, the focus is on dealing with the traffic bottleneck around the airport, something that will continue in the coming year. Passengers should give themselves 3 hours before departure and use the express drop-off areas to minimize disruptions. Denise Roberts, CTV News.
There was a call today for Quebec to raise its gas tax. It comes from an advocacy group that says the additional money could be used to fund public transport and improve the road network. Matt Grillo reports.
Despite the high price of fuel, the group called Alliance Transit says increasing Quebec's gas tax is a solution to increase revenue and help the province properly maintain its road network and public transport.
It has remained 19.2 cents since 2013, which means that every year we're getting essentially the same income, but the expenses are going up.
But with more people buying electric cars, the group says we can't rely on fuel taxes long term.
It sounds obvious to me that tolls will probably be the solution in the future.
Whether it's a higher gas tax or more tolls, transit advocates say something is needed because Quebec does not have the means to maintain its infrastructure. Alliance Transit studied the books and says Quebec has a repair fund for roads and public transport, but spending within that fund is 5 times higher than revenue. Potential consequences facing taxpayers: more potholes, outages, and reduced service in public transport, and metro stations continuing to degrade. Alliance Transit says funding for public transit has been stagnant for more than a decade, while the maintenance deficit of Quebec's road network is about $24 billion. Quebec's transport minister responded with a statement saying, "In the latest Quebec infrastructure plan, we decided to allocate 88% of investments to road maintenance and to set aside significant funds for the maintenance of public transit infrastructure."
If we don't act soon, it can only mean one thing, is that the infrastructure will continue to degrade with worse quality, less reliability. That's true for both the road network, the metro system, the bus system.
The group says since 2018, Quebec's road network is degrading twice as fast as repairs can be carried out. Matt Grillo, CTV News.
Well, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, and Ottawa are all vying to be the home of the new Defence, Security and Resilience Bank. And Quebec politicians are accusing one of the competing cities of using scare tactics. Here's Olivia O'Malley.
Toronto is being accused of fear-mongering in the bid to be the headquarters of the future Defence, Security and Resilience Bank. According to La Presse, the city is using the referendum issue to undermine Montreal's candidacy.
I think that fear is the only weapon they have, and they will use it as much as they can.
If the PQ wins the fall election, they've promised to hold a referendum on Quebec's sovereignty. La Presse says this is something Ontario has mentioned to federal officials who are responsible for choosing the host city.
We must put aside this fear campaign, these fear tactics, and the federal government ought to decide by the merits of each city.
Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, and Vancouver are all being considered. While Liberal House Leader Marc Tanguay says he doesn't agree with fear tactics, it's not inaccurate to say a potential referendum could lead to economic instability.
This is, I think, should be within Canada a friendly competition. So don't go there with this big if.
The multinational bank will provide long-term, low-cost financing for defense projects by NATO members and allies. It's expected to create 3,500 jobs, making it extremely sought over. Premier Christine Fréchette avoided denouncing Ontario's tactics. Instead, she highlighted Montreal's expertise in fields like aerospace, AI, and cybersecurity, saying it has everything it needs to host the bank.
Montréal a tout ce qu'il faut pour accueillir cette banque.
Fréchette says she reminded Prime Minister Mark Carney of the importance of considering Montreal for its expertise and experience at their joint announcement Wednesday in Mirabel. Montreal Mayor Soraya Martinez-Ferrada says the city will base its campaign for the Defence Bank on facts, not fear, leaving that tactic to Toronto. Olivia O'Malley, CTV News, Quebec City. A former Liberal MNA has been found in violation of the Ethics Code. Quebec's Ethics Commission is recommending an $8,000 fine against Sonia Leconen-Olivier. The commissioner says Leconen-Olivier used public constituency funds in her Chamonix riding to help Pablo Rodriguez win the 2025 Quebec Liberal leadership race. Rodriguez was forced to resign as leader in December. The ethics report also found that Leconen-Olivier tried to obstruct the commissioner's investigation.
Report speaks for itself. Our leader, Charles Milliard, clearly stated and had gone public saying that the MNA for Chamonix will not be reintegrated within the caucus and will not be candidate for the Quebec Liberal Party. Today, it's the end of that episode, and we are going and looking forward.
The Liberal Party is hoping that it is the end of that episode. This should not be tagged on the Liberal Party. What they're hoping is that it will be tagged to the whole fling-flang, what was being called the fling-flang by Marwa Rizki around Pablo Rodriguez's leadership campaign. So this is actually, I guess in some sense, good news because it provides closure. It also confirms what the Liberal Party had already suspected when they asked Leconen-Olivier to sit as an independent and excluded her from caucus.
Still to come, works by some of the world's most famous artists on display before auction in Montreal.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
Increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
Montreal will be one of 4 cities in the world to host the Summer Olympic qualifiers in June of 2028. There will be competitions in several sports, including basketball, beach volleyball, and climbing. And the other qualifying events will be in Tokyo, Shanghai, and Orlando. The Summer Games take place in Los Angeles in 2028. Well, works by Renoir, Van Gogh, and the Group of 7 are now on display in Montreal. And the works will all eventually go up for auction. Here's Christine Long.
300,000.
Great artists you've heard of, whose work you've probably never seen in person.
We never know what's going to come to us and what we're going to see in someone's home. And
this canvas by Impressionist Pierre-Auguste Renoir is on display for the first time in Canada. It was in a private collection, hidden from view for 40 years. Art auctioneer Lydia Abbott says valuable art can be found in unusual places.
For example, we had a work by David Bowie that was discovered at a donation center in Ontario that they purchased for $5, and we actually sold it for over $100,000.
No David Bowie art this time, but the only etching Vincent van Gogh ever made is here. Homme à la pipe, Portrait du Docteur Gachet, is valued at $250,000. This Canadian beauty, called Wind, will likely go for much more, says fellow auctioneer Rob Cowley.
The 1936 canvas by Emily Carr, valued at between $500,000 and $700,000. Her work has commanded prices in the millions of dollars.
From the Group of 7 to more contemporary artists like Newfoundlander David Lloyd Blackwood.
It is called Fire Down on the Labrador. It's actually one of the most valuable prints in Canadian history.
A Norval Morisseau canvas from 1968 is also on offer, and it's been verified, says Abbott.
You know, authenticity and provenance, and with that, it should do very well in our sale.
They say art collectors sometimes consider masterpieces investments.
And if you're collecting smartly, if you are, speaking to advisors, and if you are doing your homework as well and focusing on works of rarity and quality, most often those are the works that have stability in the long term and also have the opportunity to increase in value.
See for yourself until Saturday evening at the Eric Klinkoff Gallery on Sherbrooke West. Then everything goes up for auction on May 27th. Christine Long, CTV News.
And still ahead, a 10-year-old who's turning into quite the columnist.
Menswear provided by Ernest. Elevate your style with Ernest. For breaking news and local news that matters to you, download the CTV News app right now by scanning the QR code on your screen using your smartphone. Or you can also go to our website, ctvnewsmontreal.ca. Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
Well, it was another cooler than usual spring day for this time of year, starting with a perfectly seasonal low. So in Mirabel, Montreal, and Sherbrooke, we woke up to a temperature of 7 degrees. Again, that is what we'd expect as our low, but what we don't expect to see is that daytime high sitting at 13. So that's what we had today. Normally, we see closer to the 18-degree mark at this time of year, but by this time next week, we could be seeing those temperatures moving up. But here's what we have coming our way tonight. Forecasting a low of 6. That's along with a few clouds. Also seeing some westerly winds on the lighter side, gusting at 15 kilometers an hour. And as we head into tomorrow morning, well, those winds are going to start to pick up a little bit. So for tomorrow morning, seeing that temperature of 6 degrees once again, along with sun and clouds, and then winds shifting to the southwest, gusting up to 20 kilometers. By the afternoon, we're looking at winds as strong as 40 kilometers. But there is some good news with that. We are looking at a 40% chance of roughly 1 millimeter of showers coming in. But of course, those winds mean that those showers should move out relatively quickly. So if we set our futurecast in motion, we see those clouds coming in at 7 a.m. And then it's closer to midday when we see all these showers sort of scattered across the province of Quebec. So those will be moving out by the end of the day is what we're forecasting. But this mix of sun, clouds, and showers is what we are expecting to set the tone for the weather over the weekend. On Saturday and Sunday, we are forecasting another 40% chance of roughly 1 millimeter of showers coming in on each of those days. But along with that, looking at daytime highs of 17 and 16 degrees. And then good news as we head into next week. From Monday all the way through to Thursday, we are expecting to hold on to sun and clouds, along with, once again, those rising daytime highs.
A community newspaper near Ottawa has a new columnist, and he writes from a younger perspective. Sean Varden explains.
Mayor Murphy, I've already started that.
Fred Hillier is not your typical 10-year-old. Along with schoolwork, hobbies, and church, he's now the newest and youngest columnist at the Eganville Leader.
I want to be able to tell the world these days through a kid's eye.
His bi-weekly column, Inside Fred's World, offers his hometown of Eganville a unique take from a kid's perspective.
Pretty exciting. It's not something that you see every day, a kid getting to write for a paper.
It's a good one.
He can write about whatever interests him, and although it can be a lot of work, he hopes his young views will make people think.
I kind of make a list on Google Docs on my Chromebook, and then when I'm done with that list, the next day I write the column. Like this one, I had to make it 530 words or something. It was kind of a little overwhelming.
The Eganville Leader has been part of the Ottawa Valley for more than 120 years. When it was put up for sale in 2024, there were fears it would not survive. But when new owners were found, Fred knew he wanted to be part of it.
When we introduced them in our April 22nd edition, people were actually excited to see someone that young with that kind of an interest. And I know that he's going to resonate well with our readers.
One of my classmates, he's in the same grade as me. He said he read it on the first morning of the column, and he said it was really good.
Fred's next column is about his family's piano, which has been passed down for 5 generations. Also on his list, interviewing the mayor, the fire chief, and letting people know what a special place they call home.
I hope he sticks with it and that we're looking at a couple of years. I think he's got lots of stories to tell.
And while he's currently the youngest, the Eganville Leader actually had a columnist who made it into the world record books for being the oldest news columnist in the world. 96-year-old Al Donahue just stepped away from his role. But from the oldest to the youngest, the Eganville Leader is a paper that brings generations together.
Ever since 1902, the Eganville Leader has been making its people happy or sad or somewhere in between. It feels really important to a kid like me from Eganville.
Sean Varden, CTV News.
He really understands news. And that wraps it up for us tonight. For the latest news, you can listen to the Andrew Carter Morning Show at 5 on CJ 8800. And of course, you can always head to ctvnewsmontreal.ca for extended coverage. Thanks so much for staying up late with us, and we will see you again tomorrow. Take care.